afternoon and happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to Stock Market Today. Ali Corman, Ed Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where the stock market rally did take a little bit of a breather, Ed, and one of 2020's big winners didn't perform so well today, but another big winner from 2020 flashing a buy signal.
That's right, Ali. Zoom video, really ugly reaction to earnings last night. Tesla holding just above an aggressive buy point, and Snap looking pretty strong as well.
Okay, well, let's check in on the major indexes. So a little bit of a down day here for the NASDAQ, closing down just fractionally, while the S&P 500 and Dow were down about 0.1% apiece. Small caps, though, on the upside, up about 0.2%, but really not any damage here to this super strong rally that we've seen, especially for the NASDAQ in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's individual stocks. You're always going to have some winners and losers, but I mean, the market took a pause, and really, it's probably a good thing. And the NASDAQ can't go at that kind of angle. So falling less than 0.1%, and it's like, I mean, it's almost like you could have canceled today's trading and it wouldn't have made much difference. So it still looks very strong. Be great if we pause a little bit, maybe form some more, handles or other situations, but everything's looking pretty healthy.
Yes, and checking in on small caps, which led the day today. We noted a couple sessions ago, IWM, the ETF tracking the Russell 2000, getting back above not only its 50-day line, but its highs from a couple weeks prior to that. So still holding up here. But of course, it would be good to see it making even more gains. But do you think we can get that to happen while the other major indexes pause?
I mean, probably not if they're really pausing, but you can certainly see the small caps outperform again. I mean, they've really lagged for several months, but now before that, they outperformed for quite a while. So it certainly could happen again, but just having the small caps, it's okay if they lag, just it's when they're losing. That was really what was ugly. I mean, it rebounded around the 200-day line when the major indexes were rebounding around their 50 days. That's when things were starting to get unpleasant. That's when leading stocks were starting to really show pain. And okay, then we rebounded and everybody's viewpoint changes. So they had a really strong week last week. I think it was the best week in 5 months, maybe longer. So that definitely can happen. It just, so we have to see how it can go on from here.
Yeah, 5% gain last week. Well, Ed, one stock that I'm sure wishes this trading session today was canceled is Zoom Video. As you mentioned, a poor reaction to earnings and the guidance down about 17% in just absolutely massive turnover today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with a stock like this, people are expecting tremendous growth, and it was really strong growth. I mean, it's slowing, and some of that you can say, look, they can't. The numbers are just getting the much more difficult comparisons, so you can't have that same kind of growth rate. But it's not just that; the sequential gains are slowing. I think they forecast a slight decline in revenue this quarter versus last. Obviously, it's getting to be a big company. People are using it. We're using it right now, but there's just a level of growth, and if this stock was already not looking good heading into earnings. It wasn't a stock that you really wanted to be in heading into earnings. And so when, in that kind of situation, there's just the risks are so high. And this one did not pay off for anybody who was in this stock.
Yeah, just because a stock was a huge winner in the past and Zoom Video very recently doesn't mean that it is going to continue to be a winner. So for investors out there who maybe they're saying, well, I've been in Zoom since the IPO, or since the early days of the coronavirus crash, still sitting on a big gain, there are strategies that you can use on the weekly chart to get out sell signals, looking at moving averages, instead of saying, oh, well, I'm still up on Zoom, even with this poor reaction. You could have been putting that money to work elsewhere while the stock has taken a break. I mean, we have the big breach of the 10-week moving average in mid-November. If you wanted to maybe give it a little bit more room, maybe you waited for that big decline and break below the 40-week moving average, a huge downside reversal in massive volume on this week too, Ed. So whether you wanted to give it a little bit more of a room, a little bit of more of a leash or not, those are some ways that maybe you could have saved yourself from a bit of the pain today.
Yeah, those are great sell signals. And that's the way you have to, at some point, some stocks will keep running, and they'll take breaks. And sometimes you want to let them run for a little while, but at some point you just have to say this run is over and I'll see if it comes back at some other point.
Yep, and it most definitely can, but needs some more time. And now let's take a look at Tesla, which also was a big winner in 2020. But this weekly chart is looking a little different here, Ed. We're seeing support right around that 40-week moving average as the stock continues to climb higher, albeit in lower volume. But if we flip on over to the daily chart, it is presenting some buy signals this week.
Yeah, I mean, this is aggressive. It's not, I mean, it's still pretty deep in its base. The relative strength line is still, low. It's at its highest levels basically in 4 months. So it's improving. So just know that it's not a leader right now. It could be, again, it's trying to be. And obviously there's a lot of attention to it. Getting above the 730 buy point yesterday, just above it, you could probably have drawn a trend line downward sloping from all the way at the top at 900 or right there. Either way, it's going to get you the same thing. And so those would have been places to buy, and it's just nudging above that level. And, we'll see here. I mean, it's done that a couple times and it's come back and come down, and then it's come back up, and we'll just see if that can really take off here. So place where you can start an entry. Obviously, just in general, we've talked about early entries is a way to go just with stocks overall in this market. Place to maybe start a position right now and see if that does well. If it doesn't, you'll want to get out and see if it can hold up, come back later.
And right now it's about 7.4% above the 10-week line. So if you use that as your line in the sand on the downside, it's within that 7 to 10% at a maximum that we ideally like seeing for stocks within striking distance of their 10-week lines for these earlier entries. It's on Leaderboard, Swing Trader, and was a stock of the day. So it has that trifecta going for it. When Tesla does see a little bit of momentum, it's hard for us to ignore even our news editor out there.
That's right. I can't ignore it when it's moving higher.
Okay, and let's also turn our attention to Snap, SNAP. A nice day of outperformance for the stock, up 2.1%. We've been keeping an eye on Snap for it to pop back up over the couple of recent days of trading action, and it did that today.
Yeah, you could have done it off of the sort of a breaking a trend line from that 80-85 high, sort of down there. Yesterday, it just snuck in above the old buy point. So there's that. There's all sorts of things. You can draw all sorts of lines with this one. It's like, yes, is the high from a few days ago. And if you sort of squint and ignore that 80-85 day, there's a flat base. It's not going to show up because it broke through. But when you have days like that 80-85 day, I think it was August 10th, it goes up and reverses, doesn't close above that left-hand side. We still consider that part of that base. So, there's all sorts of ways to get into it, or at least start positions. It's basically trading. It's sort of an inside day to that gap up day off of earnings. I mean, of all the days. So if you bought there or you bought today, you're pretty much in the same position. And it's holding up well. The volume was not tremendous, but better than it was the prior couple of days. So that was nice. And it just we'll just have to see. I mean, I'm not, to say like, it's like you want to see it hold these levels. I think if it closed below today's low, that would be maybe a place you'd want to be getting out, or at least scaling out a little bit, just because you'd be getting below the buy point, getting below the trend line to limit your losses. But, this one has really tremendous growth, accelerating growth on the top and bottom line. So, well, also versus a loss versus you go. So that's not quite fair, but accelerating growth certainly on the revenue side and improving earnings.
Yes, it does. And it looks like it is expected to turn an annual profit. It's had a couple of quarters here, it looks like, of profitability, but looks like 2022 is supposed to be the time. And I know maybe it's calendar quarter versus whatnot. I'm not sure if it's already in its fiscal 22, but
no, it's not. It's still an estimate.
Okay.
They actually, you can see there's December. If you go up the years up to the top, they show you when the calendar year is, and it's December.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, I
Learned
know somebody just
something
showed it to me. And but yeah, so See how it goes. I mean, it wouldn't be a shocker if it turned a profit for this year, but I don't know what their spending plans are. Definitely the trend is that way. And it's often nice to see stocks as they turn profitable.
It is. That's something that you like pointing out there, Ed. And of course, we've been talking a lot about focusing on leading groups and the internet content group at 16 out of 197. So there's that. Thank you, Ed. And thank you all for tuning in. We will be back with more tomorrow on IBD Live. So make sure to check it out, investors.com/IBD Live. We look forward to interacting with you there. And we will also be back tomorrow after the close for more Stock Market Today. We'll see you then.